Hello, guys and gals, animal friends, and the spirit pals. Welcome back to the Spirit Whisper channel. Thank you guys for being here today because it's a very special day. We got a special guest. I'm so excited to welcome Ramon to my channel. Yay!
Thank you for having me, Mark. I'm in dress code. You see, I'm a snake today.
Yeah, that's good.
A snake in the grass, and I even have my apple.
That's good. You got the plants, the animals.
Yep.
All that.
Pan
would love you with all your little animal and nature energy. I love it so much. I know, and I love that shirt. It's so cute.
I like yours. I love all your shirts. I go through each one of the videos just to see what kind of shirt do you have.
Well, the good thing is you can only see the top half of me because the bottom half is pretty much naked.
It's like in the news, right?
Yeah, shorts all the time, especially because it's so hot and humid here. It's like, okay, I got to have shorts on for the bottom. Yeah. But I'll try to put a cute top on anyway. There's Longman Mantero. Hello.
Hi, Richie.
So glad all you guys are joining us. I'm going to give you a few minutes to step in before I make Ramon talk about himself. Now, his channel is called Moon Scarab. And if you don't know him and don't know his channel, please go visit him. There's a link in the description under this video to Ramon's channel. Go over there, check him out, subscribe. I did it. It took me just mere seconds. So easy to do. So I'll go over there and support him. That'd be great. Now I'm trusting you guys have already subscribed to my channel, or I'll have to come slap you.
Who doesn't?
Hey, look, Bluebell Oracle. You're new to me. Oh, is that? No. Hi. I love that name. I hadn't seen that one before. So I'm just going to wait one more minute, get a few more people time to get here. So Ramon's in Pennsylvania, and I'm in Kentucky. So we're both sort of, not really, but East Coast adjacent. And we're keeping the East down. Okay, here comes some more people. Yep.
It's starting to get cool over here.
Oh, is it?
It's still, yeah, I feel like the transition is starting. So now we're starting to get into the 80s and 60s in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to feel the fall transition.
Yeah, fall's my favorite time of year. I don't know.
Mine too.
I just really like the fall. I missed it a lot when I was in Los Angeles because there wasn't much of a fall. But Kentucky's so filled with trees. It's just like I live in trees and I love the fall. So I think it's going to be a pretty wet winter this winter. Looks to be like last winter we didn't have such a big one, but I think it's going to be bigger this time. More snow and rain. But the fall should be gorgeous.
Except fall is always amazing. I love fall. Fall is my favorite time of the year. Then spring.
Yep.
Then winter. And last summer. I don't like summer at all.
I know. I'm not super into the heat. The heat gets, I don't know, it's too much. And the older you get, the harder the heat is. And I don't like humidity. Like when it's up in 90s, it's like, no thanks. So it's going back down to the 80s here too. Thank goodness.
Yeah, and you feel it right away. The other morning I woke up and it felt like so humid. And I asked Alexa what was the humidity level, and it was 91. The humidity level. So it was horrible.
Yeah.
The temperature was like in the 70s, but with the humidity, it made it feel much worse.
I know we had one day I got up and it was like 89 degrees and 89% humidity. I'm like,
wow.
What the fuck? Yeah, it's a lot. I don't deal well. I worked at the zoo for 30 years and it was always dry heat in Los Angeles, but still the heat in me, and plus I sweat like if you just look at me. When it's hot. So, oh God, it was always a challenge too.
At the zoo, that's an amazing job. Oh my God. I love going to the zoo. You know, here in Philadelphia, the first zoo of the nation was here in Philly.
Oh, how cool.
Yes.
Well, of course,
Philadelphia Yeah, Philadelphia is the first in a lot of things. First university, first bank, first library, um, the first zoo. The Mother's Day, the person who came with Mother Days was from Philly.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, it was the capital of the nation with the first 13 colonies. So it's a lot of history here in the city.
cool. I've not
Hmm.
ever been to Philadelphia. I'd like to go though.
Hmm. It's really nice.
I've been through Pennsylvania, but just it was like
Hmm.
I was going up to New York, but I didn't really hang out, but I'd like
Yeah,
to.
it's very different from the rest of the state. Lancaster is beautiful. It's That's where the Amish are, and it's a totally different world. I love going over there because you're in touch with nature. You feel like you cross the time portal,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. The food is great. The people are nice. The landscape is amazing. And then in other areas like Pittsburgh, it's sort of like a smaller Philadelphia,
Oh,
but all over PA is beautiful.
mm.
It's a
And
beautiful
you're
city.
in Philadelphia?
Yep.
Yep.
Hmm.
Cool.
Philadelphia. Hmm.
Oh, the first hospital, the first fire department.
Hmm.
Liza Bassett says, look at that. Everybody's,
Yeah.
you're not too late, Mimi. You're just a couple of minutes. Okay. Well, I want to start getting to know Ramon a little bit better because this is really my first time of like actually meeting you face to face. I know of
Hmm.
you. I've seen you on YouTube, but
Yeah.
for us to get to talk together. But I always like to know how people got themselves into this mess, like of metaphysics and spirituality and all that kind of stuff. What led you to that, and how long have you been into that?
My God. So spirituality has always been a part of my life. I was raised in a Christian household, Protestant to be specific. My father, ever since, I have like a sense of memory. I like this more.
Yeah.
Ever since I had a sense of memory, I've always been in the church. So my father tried to uh, upbring us with some type of spiritual base, and I was very dedicated in my beliefs, and it was a big part of my life.
Was
And
it
throughout the
Catholic
years,
Church? Was
hmm?
it the Catholic Church?
No, Protestant. It was
Protestant.
Pentecostal.
Okay,
Hmm.
Pentecostal. Oh, great.
Protestant, yeah. And it wasn't until I started to, well, first of all, like when I was 8 years old, I read a book that belonged to my dad, and it was called Chariot of the Gods by Eric Van Daniken.
Yeah, I remember that
And
book.
that book like opened my eyes. I read that book like 3 times back to back
I
when I
love
was
it.
8 because I loved it, and I still had that one copy saved. I have it here at home. So that gave me like a different vision of the world, and I started to ask myself questions about the universe, our view in terms of like God, because my father used to say there's only one God and there's only one truth. And then I started asking, what about the people who never knew about Christianity, people from other countries, and I started asking myself, the reason that we are Protestant or Christians is because historically it came from Europe. What if we were conquered by Asia? Would that would have been the one truth? So a lot of things didn't make sense to me. And when I turned into my teen years, I started to discover that had an attraction towards men,
Yeah.
towards men, and it was a period of suffering, a lot of suffering, because I tried to battle that.
Yeah.
And I asked myself why, if I felt this strong love towards God, I had to go through this
Yeah.
to test my faith. If he knows everything, he knows the level of my faith. So sort of like the whole structure of my beliefs started falling little by little. I went through this transition with a friend of mine, my best friend. His name is Richard. We went together to high school, and he was also in the church and same age. And we went sort of like through the same period of, discovering ourselves and um, questioning our sexuality, part ways with the church. And we parted ways at the same time. We were support to each other. But the only difference was that he remained seeking some type of spiritual knowledge, was always interested in different types of religions, spiritual beliefs. You like to explore and have knowledge. I feel like so hurt and so I don't disappointed that I didn't want to do anything with the spiritual.
Yeah.
If, and of course, being raised in always in the spiritual and everything surrounded with faith, I got to the point that it was like the discovery of the flesh, or like the physical part.
Right.
Yeah,
Or like
and
being gay, maybe, and like having some
mhm,
freedom and looking at that. Because I
yeah,
relate that I'm older than you, but the whole thing of, oh God, what? This is the last thing I want to go through in this, like, the way I
yeah,
was back, and this was back
hmm,
before gay was a word.
yeah,
But it was just such a struggle. And, with God, I was like going, why? I don't but so I relate to you in that way,
yeah.
you know.
And it was a very different mentality at the time because I came out when I was 20, and coming out to my parents, that was another issue.
Yep.
Because they think you're gay, you want to be a woman, you're gonna die of AIDS, a lot of different things. No, it's true.
No, I
And,
know. I'm not laughing.
I'm
I'm just
yeah,
laughing at the whole situation that we have to go.
yeah, yeah, because I came out when was it, 93.
Okay.
We just came out of the 80s, so that whole mentality of you know uh, homosexuality at the time, it's still lingered in the
Right.
next decade.
Yeah.
um
The AIDS
yeah.
epidemic lingered.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So during that period, it was like I was born again in a sense. I was discovering myself, discovering the world, and for many years I was okay with it. But then over time, I started feeling that there was something lacking in my life. Being raised with some type of spiritual foundation, all of a sudden I didn't have that in my life, and that led to a lot of other problems. Depression. I started drinking a lot, and I realized that that part, which is fundamental of all of us, is we're physical, but we're also spiritual, we're emotional, we're intellectual. All those things need to be nurtured. And I started exploring different types of spiritual philosophies. Um, I went to discover Catholicism, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, but none of them could fit with my view of the world. There was always something that wasn't like 100% fulfilling to me. The last one that I was reading about or studying about was Jainism, which is ancient Indian. It comes from India, uh, and I resonated with a lot of it because they value all forms of life. They're very careful with, like, they don't pluck a tree, for example. They wait till the fruit falls because they don't want to like disturb the organisms that are with it. There are certain vegetables that they don't eat, like carrots or potatoes, onions, because they don't want to pull the plant and disturb like the
Right.
the little insects or organisms that are there. And I knew that was something that I could never live up to. And the day that uh, one day I was watching a documentary on it, and it was on YouTube, I remember. And YouTube suggested me another video, and it was about different philosophies, different forms of spirituality. And I started watching the video, and along between all of them, tarot was one of the topics. I was like, tarot spirituality, because in the back of my mind, I knew a little bit about tarot, but it's like what the regular folk would know or
Yep.
would see, like the death card, the tower,
Right.
and I was very apprehensive about it.
Is it the devil?
And
Witchcraft?
yeah, totally. And I started watching documentaries and videos on tarot, and I got really interested in it. And I said, well, that same day I went looking for tarot decks. I couldn't decide which one I wanted to buy. I said I'll leave it for another date. the very next day I went to work. I was at work, and I came out of my office, and I was going to dispose some papers on a recycle bin that was in the floor that I worked. And when I went to throw the pack of papers, I saw a tarot card, and it was the Fool. And I sort of like stood there for a second. I was like, "What's
That's weird.
this?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I pulled the Fool. There was the Magician, and then the High Priestess, and the Empress, and the Emperor, and it was like a magic trick, I say, because like there was a card right one behind the other, and I said, okay, if all 78 cards are here, because I knew there were 78 cards, this is going to be my deck. And all 78 cards were there, even the box and everything. And that
How
became,
weird that was in the trash can the next day.
yes,
You had
the
been.
next day, and all cards right there for me to see it.
Well, we know where that came from.
Yeah, it was the universe.
Yeah.
So I totally, I started learning about tarot from that point on, and that it felt so good. It felt so right, and it filled like all the corners of my spiritual needs, and it's a fantastic spiritual foundation for me now.
Yeah.
And I shared that in my channel. I do other forms of divination, but tarot, definitely, that was the first step to getting into this.
Yeah, that's so cool. And you know what? I know whether they intended to or not, but religion managed to give God a bad name, kind of, because it teaches God in love, but then the action isn't always the same. There's a lot of judgment in the church, no matter which one we grow up in. It's like our church is better than that kind of thing. But the thing about that is, I'm a channel for the nature spirit Pan, and people connected to God long before there was religion. So because you can easily connect through source or God through nature, through the earth. And before there was like religion, organized religion, there were people communicating with source and learning about how to deal with the land. Like you were talking about the Amish, how they respect the land, and the others you were talking about, they didn't want to pull the trees up because there's a more of an allness. We work for the all. So I think too, because I had a similar story, and I was raised in the church. It was Baptist, but I believed in God. That part the church taught me because my parents, they were really into it. But then as I grew up, I went through a similar thing like you of, looks like I'm going to be gay. And really at that time, there was because I'm quite a bit older than you, but there was nothing like nothing to look at, to turn to. So I was here in Kentucky in a rural area. I was sure I was the only person in the world that was like that. But that was a challenge. But the one thing I did know is that the church wasn't going to have anything to do with me if that was the case. But I had always been clairaudient for some reason ever since I was a little boy. So I felt like God talked to me because I'd had a rough childhood. But I realized that in leaving the church, my relationship with God actually only grew stronger and stronger and stronger. Yeah.
Yes.
So it didn't make that less. I didn't necessarily want to go to that church, and some of that seemed hypocritical, and I didn't like it. But my relationship with God just grew and grew, and I can remember having conversations, and maybe you too, where God, I thought, or Jesus, because I also like the energy of Jesus, talked to me for a long time about being gay and about why my soul chose it. And, made me feel a lot better about that choice and realize, okay, well, great. I'm not going to look back. I can remember having a long in meditation talk with what I call Jesus, where he explained a lot of that to me. And then I just felt better forevermore. I kind of didn't look back after that. And that was really through spirit, So then when I began to get into metaphysical things, I realized, this is my way of connecting. And plus, what you and I both realized, we're not the only ones. Others are have had similar experiences where we we grew up in church and stuff, but then we went, oh no, this isn't, like, there's something not working. And then we had to kind of find our own way, which is probably the reason.
Yeah, that's true. It's a lot of divine representations. You were talking about nature being the first spiritual connection to man. I think it's a lot of the gods in different cultures came from that connection with nature.
Yep.
They started assigning or giving names to the god of thunder, the god of rivers, of the lake, or of the land, and from there it evolved into more personal ways that people could relate to.
Right.
But I think it comes down to primal energies and primal forces that we understand through nature.
And
what you
go ahead, sweetie.
No. I was going to say that what you were saying true is also true. After parting ways with the church and going into divination, my faith in the divine has only expanded. Like everything started making sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I really agree. I just know, as well as I know my name, that each and every one of us has our own divine connection to source. We're not separate from it. There's an individual, I see it as if God was this being and it imagined, how would I be if I was in the form of Ramon? I'd like to see how I can express itself through this individualized version of me. I really believe that, and I think that's the opportunity. The mission, if we choose to accept it, is to realize that as fully as possible. And it's kind of a fun adventure, don't you think? It's like
totally
always growing, always kind of never ends. Just when I think I got to figure it out, I go, oh, no, I don't really. I have to go another chapter, but it's ever expanding, and also it's joyful, whereas church wasn't always so joyful. I mean, they pretended to be, and there was joyous, singing stuff, but this is truly joyful to me, and I know it's individual. We tend to go through it our own way. You know what I mean? You have to kind of discover your own path, but that even makes it more special.
Yeah, definitely. There's a strange contradiction with organized religion, in which they portray you're free now because you know the truth. You came, into the arms of Jesus, or whichever, and it's totally the opposite, because then you're tied up to rituals and ways of doing it within the framework of that philosophy.
Right.
And it's kind of like a big contradiction.
Well, and plus, Jesus's message was, I'm not any different than you. I'm showing you how you can be. It's, I'm not really here just to show you all the time. I'm hoping that you will get it and become the same. So then to act like, well, he's the only one that can do it, that's against his message. The other weird thing about that is, in Jesus's day, there wasn't Christianity, because that happened
Judaism.
100 years after Jesus. But one of the religions, I don't know if it was called that, but was earth religion, like paganism. That's what people studied. And Jesus studied that because he was very, or at least that's what he's shared with me through channeling, but he was very into nature. And if you read the Bible and stuff, a long time ago, Jesus, or the energy I call Jesus, guys can believe whatever you want, asked me to reread the New Testament, which this was way after I left the church and everything. And he was going to read it with me. So I did that, and he would come in clairaudiently and explain passages and stuff like that. But, he talked about how when I would get troubled or, get into my head and stuff, I would have to go into nature to get clarity. He would go into the mountains, he would go into the woods,
the desert.
Right. And that's how he got reconnected. So then when Christianity came in, they tried to get rid of all that kind of paganism, that kind of study, because that was empowering. Those studies gave you the power. You didn't really need a priest.
The dependence. Yeah.
to do it for you. You did it for yourself. And so, then they set about trying to push all that away, which is why when we come to the world and we go, wait, something's missing. There's something left out in this. I was probably about the same age as you when I was like going along, and all of a sudden I went, I'm kind of happy enough, but something's missing. There's something missing here. And I remember feeling like I would feel uncomfortable if I died and felt like I hadn't done anything to be of service somehow to Mother Earth, or it just felt like, is there some way I can, be of service, God? And if there is, could you guide me and show me? And then my life completely changed, though.
That's amazing.
And I think it was kind of like the way you went through that. Wait, God, be something more than this.
Definitely.
I love that. And then when you come on here, I'm sure you were guided to kind of start your own channel.
Yeah. Well, originally the plan was, so that's kind of like part of the story as well.
Yeah.
My best friend, Richard, we're still friends, by the way. He went into other forms of divination. He started studying paganism, tarot, and so on. He was my go-to person to be able to talk about the topic.
Yeah.
And I asked him, what do you know about tarot? Because I started studying the keywords, the different suits, etc.
Right.
And he told me, I don't use keywords. I just read intuitively. And for me, that was mind blowing. He said, I want to learn, a little bit more about keywords and how you do it. So I started doing a video for him on the meaning of all 78 cards. And then I thought, well, I can share it with the rest of the world. So that's how the idea of starting a channel came. It was just one video that I started doing. And then after that, the channel expanded into, talking about the suits, talking about animals in tarot, about the court cards, and a lot of different other topics and forms of divination. Because then I started branching out, learning other forms of cartomancy, other forms of divination until now, and those were pre-recorded videos, videos that I was editing and, trying to share information. Now I'm doing a little bit more lives, sharing with other channels. And
yeah, get up there and start. Like that's what we're going to do a little bit today, is like play together and read together. So if you guys have a question or two, put them in there, like a general question, or you can do an animal question. We're not going to read on politics on this one today. And Ramon doesn't want to read on health, which is fine, but general questions. And we'll do that a little bit today as well. That'll be fun, because I love reading with other people. I don't know why. That was something that was really surprising to me. I didn't think I would at all, because I had for decades just worked on my own, doing sessions and all that. And so I didn't think I'd ever like reading with other people, but I love it so much.
So I love combining different divination tools. So for today, if we read, I'm going to use tarot, Elder Futhark runes, Lenormand, and Oracle at the same time. I love combining them.
That's cool.
And
I love that too.
The tarot deck that I'm going to use today, I actually got it a few days ago and I love it. It's called the Soul's Reflection Animal Spirit Tarot.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. Cool.
Yeah, it's new. It's beautiful. And what I like, let me show you a card. Like for example, the Fool. Let's pull the Fool. So like all the animals have that look of like a person, but it's not given human attributes to animals. It's more like us embodying the spirit of different types of animals. And it has like deers, and there's phoenix and zebras, and it's beautiful. And it has the keywords at the bottom as well.
Oh, how neat. I love it.
Yeah, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to use Elder Futhark runes. Normally I use regular runes, but for cameras it's better cards, so I'm going to be using those. I'm going to be using Lenormand, and I'll be using Ciolo Thompson's Lenormand. It's a beautiful deck. It's like watercolor, amazing. And for Oracle, I'll be using the Spirit Animals Oracle card.
Cool. I bet you I have a Lenormand deck that's the fairy deck. Have you seen that fairy Lenormand?
No, I'm
Yeah.
not into fairies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, there's certain. I mean, they're beautiful and everything, but there's decks for all types of tastes. There's pandas, there's drag queens, there's pot, there's futuristic.
Yeah.
There's certain ones like fairies, for example, doesn't resonate with me. I admire it artistically, but in terms of connecting with it to read, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not one that yet I've connected with.
I never know for sure which ones are going to connect with me. Sometimes I think one's going to, and then it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, and then it really does. So I'm like, a lot of that I think is about the person who probably came up with the deck. Maybe it resonates more than others. I'm not really sure, but I love, if you've watched me, I like to switch decks all the time. Even in the same reading, I'll like pull 2 or 3 decks, and I read intuitively, like your friend. I've studied the meanings and all that, but usually it's just about the intuitive. Plus, I'm always listening to spirit, so they'll give me the answer in my head, and then I pull the cards to see if it'll double down on it, kind of. Because, like I said, I used to for decades, I didn't really use cards. I used the cards to read for myself, but I didn't really ever use them to read for others. And the deck I always used back then in the 80s was called the Mother Piece. So it was pretty different. It was a round, and it was based on more paganism kind of images. And I really loved it. And it really spoke clearly to me every time. And so I got really quickly that, spirit could speak to me through the cards. But when I started this channel, because I was kind of wondering, well, how am I going to do my channeling kind of thing on YouTube? Because Pan had asked me to watch YouTube because he wanted me, and I was like, well, on YouTube, I was all, what? And the first thing that came up was a tarot reader, which I'd never seen that on YouTube. Like, I know that came up to you. And I watched it and I went, oh, like something kind of like this. I still wasn't thinking tarot really. I was just going to bring my own way of communicating with spirit. But then once I started, the guy kept going, the one I call Pan kept saying, well, why don't you do tarot? It's a visual medium, and it, you can have like a picture. And I'm going, okay. And so, he convinced me to, you still commune with me, but we can use the cards to kind of double down. And so it's a lot of fun.
Because there's a lot of layers of meanings in the cards.
Right.
You can use them visually. There's numerology. There's astrological correspondences. There's everything. And
you can read all different ways.
Yeah. That's if you use RWS or any of the clones. Some people use Marseille for numerology, but divination in general. I do different forms of divination. I use, in terms of cartomancy, I do tarot, Lenormand, I do Kipper, I do tasseomancy, I do divination with coins, with dice, with dominoes, so many things. There's so many ways that you can connect with the divine, and I do scrying, and I share those things in my channel.
Yep, that's great. Just giving people the tools, and more people, thank God, thank you, are waking up and becoming aware that there's something else maybe, and they're just more curious and interesting, which maybe is one reason why a lot of us were kind of guided to come on YouTube and present our different stuff on there, because in a way I was like going, okay, I'll do it. I don't know if anybody ever watch it, but I'll do it. But and it's interesting because a lot of us kind of did it around the same time. Like we all had, let's present on YouTube. So I can't help but believe there's a little bit of
and there's more people coming every day. I have a video, that video that I was telling you about, the meaning of all 78 cards, I get a lot of it's my most watched video on my channel, and it has like 100,000 views, and I reposted it a few months ago. But I don't care about the numbers, but what I hear all the time is that, I'm new to tarot. I'm glad that I found this video. And it tells me that there's more people coming to explore this wonderful tool every day. And not everybody does it for spiritual reasons. Some people do it for internal reflection, for insight. It's as a meditation tool. There's so many ways you can use it as.
Yeah, and you don't have to read for other people. It's really good it's a way to commune with spirit about you. You know what I mean? And get down to the bottom of things. And, we don't really have a metaphysical school. It's like when I grew up and when I was learning to channel all that, I was like, well, I just got to figure it out. It's like there wasn't anybody to tell me or anything. I had one person who took me under their wing and really helped, and thank you. But you know what I mean? And so now as more and more people wake up, they're just looking for some kind of, can you at least show me what the tool, I can see, Spirit was like, well, yeah, but Mark, there's a lot of people that are going to be looking for it and just want the information. And so, I see that that's true. It's just hiding it, because it's like what I wanted when I was going through it, could I find a class or something, or I would find a rare book, because this is like in the 80s. I would find one and just devour it, like you were saying, with the one Chariots of Gods. But I think now there's this craving for it, and they just go, oh, thank you, because I get a lot of that too, and I think that's so great.
Yeah, it is great, and people are much more open. It's much more accepted. It's like I said, it's not just a spiritual. You don't have to use it as a spiritual tool. Some people use it as a psychological one. So there's much more acceptance. There's a lot of information too. When I started in tarot, it was very, confusing to me, because the booklets had, certain meanings for the cards, and then the books, another one, and then the videos, and some of them contradicted each other. And, I started compiling my own information, and I learned the keywords for the cards, but then I started seeing some of the cards under a different light and having my own interpretation on them.
Right, because that's the way it eventually does. I think too, with tarot or any of the divination tools, they eventually learn how you read. And so they kind of adjust to you. I know that might sound weird, but I feel like they do that to me, because they know certain pictures, trigger like thing. And the more I work with them, the more they work with me, they know, well, we'll give him this because this, he knows what that is. You know what I mean? It's like they begin to learn how I read. And since a lot of it's visual for me, when I'm looking at the cards, even though, I've studied the meanings and all that and the keywords, and sometimes it is that the card is the meaning and the keyword. And that's what I'm going to tell you. Sometimes, though, it isn't really. It's about that little picture behind the main character that all of a sudden is really jumping out at me, or it's the water in the background that I can't stop, and that kind of thing. And then Spirit learns how you read, and I think it begins to refine. So you have this back and forth. I don't know. It's
the other day I was reading for someone, and sometimes in the process of reading, you get to see things differently. I was reading for someone, and I pulled the Four of Cups, and in the Rider-Waite, which is the one I mostly use, Rider-Waite Smith, it's this man under a tree, and there's 3 cups, and there's a cup, sort of like with a cup in the hand. And I realized, we usually say that this is the universe giving you a cup, but we don't know. That's a very puzzling card, because the guy is not rejecting or taking the cup. He's sort of like in a deep state of meditation and contemplation. But at the same time, we don't know if the cup, the hand, is taking away the cup or giving it to you. We always interpret as the universe handing you another cup, but we don't know if it's in the process of the opposite, which is
well, and also it's kind of
interesting.
That person under the tree to take it or not. Like sometimes I think of it, it's like the universe presenting you with an opportunity. Are you going to look at it and take it, or are you just going to? You're so into something else that you don't even notice there is an opportunity.
Yeah,
being right there beside you. But let's say you're all in ego and fear or whatever, and you're just thinking, I don't know, your mind's all over here, and you're not looking that the universe may be offering you a helping hand. That's one way to look at it. But it's always different. It depends on the question. And like you say, the card can be reinterpreted. Like sometimes you might see it and you read it's being taken away. Sometimes you might see it and the idea is, oh, it's being offered. You know what I mean? It depends.
Yeah.
The question,
totally.
Situation. So it can be interpreted. Or sometimes it's about those 3 cups that are stacked up there in front of them. It's not really necessarily about the one that's being. And I find that with all the cards you can, and sometimes it doesn't even occur to, like all of a sudden, because everything for me is still, Rider Waite is the basis because that's the most kind of universal tarot, and then you kind of spring from there. But some of those cards, I've looked at them 100 times, but then all of a sudden, like I might be reading on behalf of someone else, something occurs to me that never did before or something. Even though I've looked at that card how many times,
Yeah.
But all of a sudden today, and then, that's the focus. So I don't know.
Yeah, it has so many small details. Like the 9 of Pentacles, a lot of people don't realize that there's a little snail at the bottom of the card. Or the Queen of Wands. If you take a closer look on the Rider-Waite, she has a fox head brooch. There's like so many small details that sometimes you rediscover as you're paying more attention to it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like you did. Like, how did I not notice that until now? I'll do that, and I'm going, oh, totally. So it kind of depends. I don't know. It's a fun and it's like a fascinating science. I don't know. It's just I haven't got bored of it yet, and I've been looking into it for a long time.
Do you do any forms of divination?
Well, in the beginning, I did a lot of runes, and I tried other things, like I used the pendulum. I can't do muscle testing because it's too easy for me to cheat in that. I trust the pendulum better for some reason, but I'm a Libra, so I use the pendulum a lot, like when I can't decide what hat to wear or whatever, because I can't.
I'm an air sign too. I'm a Gemini.
It's hard for me to make little stupid decisions. So I used to use my pendulum all the time, like that. And so I got to trust it from doing that. And so I use that sometimes. But the other thing is I depend mostly on clairaudience. So that's something I had as a child and then lost contact and then redid. So that's mainly what I use. And then tarot is my one tool. But I depend mostly on just listening. And I've been working as a conscious voice channel since the 80s and working with different teachers. Djwhal Khul, I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Yeah.
Ascended Master. That was the first one that approached me. And the energy took me under its wing, but then also a channel for him did. They both worked with me a lot. So I became a channel for him. And then did Pan's energy and became a channel for Pan. And Jesus has always talked to me where it felt like it. But, I'm just telling you what it feels like to me. Who knows, really? And the reason I call those energies that's because that's who they told me they were. So, it's all spirit, but it's also individualized and they have their own little purposes. And so because of the clairaudient, and that's the way I talk to animals too, is through clairaudience. And I think Pan helps that. So that's what I depend on most.
It's a form of channeling because it's the same thing with like the cards. The cards is just a piece of paper and ink.
Right.
You know, it's the energy and the voice that comes through
Right.
that and help and opens your mind as well to be able to discern the message that is coming.
Right. And that just takes, you have to be calm and faith and trust. There's a little bit of that involved, especially with channeling. I just have to allow them to say whatever and don't interrupt, which is, so I always feel like I'm sitting next to myself and let them step in and do the, especially if we're doing a meditation or a private session, because I don't use cards in private. It's just a channeled session. But, my job during that is basically to be quiet and just sit still and allow it, which, that took a lot of practice.
Yeah. Let me ask you, where is Alaska, Pumpkin, and Buttercup? I don't see them.
Well, Alaska's laying on the floor where you can't see her. She's right there. Buttercup was in my chair, but she got down too. They're going, we don't usually do this on Wednesday, so it's new to them. Let's do a couple.
How is Granny Mandy?
Oh, she's fine.
She's great.
Yeah,
I saw her the other day. I fell in love with her.
She's a lot.
No, juggling through boyfriends and drinking your booze.
Show up more often, but she's a lot. So, oh look, she said, Mark, does clairaudience happen in both ears? It's usually just my left ear. I always feel like I lean this way, so maybe it's my right ear. I know there's one person on YouTube, and their channel's called My Left Ear. Like that. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It took me a long time to figure it out. When spirit comes to talk to me or animals, my eyes automatically close. It's like weird. I can't prevent it. And then I just get into that where I'm just listening. I don't know.
Yeah, same thing happens to me. It happens to me. Or if I'm driving or my eyes are open, like I'm aware of what's happening around, but sort of like a window opens and I'm able to see like a scene, something playing out as a message.
That's terrific. Now that would be more clairvoyant, probably, because of the seeing. And then, we have all of them, but then sometimes one just steps to the front or something, I think for me, the clairaudience happened because when I was really little, my dad was an alcoholic. And so there was a lot of drama and fear because he was angry and violent and all that. And so when I was the oldest kid too. And so I felt really afraid a lot, and probably being a sensitive gay boy didn't help either. But anyway, I would just feel like maybe we were going to be murdered. There was a lot of that growing up, and I was worried about my mom making it.
Murdered by your dad?
Yeah. Or that he might kill my mother. There was always that threat. But whenever that would get, and I would just be beside myself for things I worry, this presence would come. I thought, is it a god or an angel? I didn't know what it was, but it would just calm me down and talk to me in my head. And then I would be able to go to sleep or whatever. And it did that all the time. And so I think it was spirit talking. So then later, when I was much older, and when I was learning to channel, that just happened really. It was like I already knew how to do that or something. So it was easy. I remember going to a big week-long intensive learning to voice channel Djwhal Khul. And it was a big group, and it was a long weekend thing. And like just right away, I could hear him, which was, I didn't expect at all. But so I would hear him in my head, and then the leader would say the words right after so I kept doing it like that to me, where he would go, first I'll tell you, then you'll hear it out loud. So that helps you trust in what's going on, so that kind of a thing. It helped me a lot. Yeah.
Definitely. And you work with animals, right?
Yeah.
With spirit animals. Animals are such I love animals so much, enough that I don't eat them.
Yeah.
I've been a vegetarian for 15 years, and I always I have like this special, beautiful love and connection with animals. I have two Chihuahuas.
I was going to ask
Um,
if you had a pet.
yeah, I have several. So these two, these are my
Hi there,
babies.
little booger heads. Oh, look, one's
Yeah.
long hair and one's short hair.
Uh-huh. Along her Chihuahua, that's Mona.
This,
She's gonna be 13 years old, and Sophia, which is 7. Sophia is a rescue, but they're my babies. But they fill me so much emotionally, and my life will be so totally different. Maybe not in a good way if I didn't have them.
I agree with that, kiddo.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
I'm getting older, but I don't know if at this point in my life, if I would make it without having a pet with me.
Yeah.
I don't
There's
think I could be
such a
real.
emotional and spiritual support.
Right. And dogs, I have dogs and cats, but dogs are so, pack oriented. They want to be a part of
Hmm.
everything. Whereas the cat's going, you guys go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll just be relaxing over here.
Uh-huh.
But, the dogs want to be involved all the time. Those little cute little chihuahuas.
Yeah, yeah, they run my life. I'm their pet.
I get it.
they have they have me trained when to give them treats and when to give them food and the belly rubs and so on. But I also have fish. I have snails. I feed the
Snails.
birds snails. Yeah, in
I
my
love
aquarium.
it.
Yeah, I love them. I started with 3 mystery snails, and now I have like 50, and I love them. They're so relaxing. When I get home from work, I sit in front of my aquarium, and I see them jump from plant to plant, and they're like little aliens in slow motion. They're
I
so
love it.
relaxing. Yeah.
I think that's
Um, yeah. I feed the squirrels on my patio every morning. Part of my routine is just wake up, uh, feed my chihuahua, change their water, then go outside and put seeds for the birds. I have like a seed feeder and a water feeder, and it brings me so much joy that I'm able to feed them. You know, I don't want them to be dependent on it. I want them to be able to, go
supplement.
foraging for their food. Yeah,
Yep.
sort of supplement it.
All right.
So there's some days that I leave it without it just so they're able to go out there and hunt on their own.
They are
But
looking forward to it, though, aren't they? Because
I know they're always waiting for me
I
in the
know.
mornings. Yeah.
Then I'll
Here's a
little bad.
every morning when I go up, they're out there and then they fly away like, oh, the candy man's here.
I know.
So I go and feed them. I change their water too.
Yeah.
I have a cherry blossom tree on my patio. So it has sort of like a little hole where I put unsalted peanuts for the squirrels. And I leave them water and oh my god, sometimes even ants. There's like ants colonies in my patio, and sometimes I leave them like a piece of candy so they're able to eat away for their colony.
You and I have a lot in common, buddy boy. I know. I really, feel very like that we have a lot of that same kind of energy. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so funny how like feeding the birds can give you so much joy and fun. And like
Yeah. Hmm.
I have a lot of first of all, I have a lot of cardinals, and I love those birds, the red birds.
Yeah. They come to my patio too. Cardinals and blue jays and wild finches, crows,
Woodpeckers.
woodpeckers too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But the blue jays, they're real peanut heads. They love the peanuts.
They are. Yeah. They where there are squirrels with peanuts, there's always a blue jay.
Yeah. And I have I have an extra lot in my backyard, so it's a pretty big lot, and it's got lots of old trees that have been there since before me, so they're big. But the blue jays sit up there and wait for me to come out with peanuts. And as soon as they see me, I can hear them like calling to each other, like, he's
Mhm.
here, he's putting them, and they just, then the minute I go in, whoa, they all come down to get them. It's so funny. But my
Yeah.
cat Meriwether, she's fascinated by the birds, and she will try to get one. I've had to have a few talks with her about that. So
Mhm.
now what she does is she lays about 10 feet and just watches them eat, which I know they don't love that probably. I'm going,
Mhm.
Meriwether, could you lay a little further? She goes, no, I have to like observe. And she's been really good about not getting them, but I'm always like, don't chase the birds
Yeah.
or the
Definitely.
squirrels.
And in general, if I see a spider, I don't kill the spider. I try to bring it out. Any regular insects, there's no reason to kill them. I don't. We can't coexist. Not that I have pest problems, but if I ever see one, like a water bug or something, I just take it outside. I don't like killing things.
Yeah. Well, when I first moved here, my cat Meriwether, I moved everybody from Los Angeles. She decided she was an excellent snake catcher. And so then every day she brought a new snake in the house. Wow. I wasn't that wild about that because she let them go and she didn't really kill them. She was just playing with them. And she kept bringing them in to show me her fine catching prowess. And every day I was going, stop with the snakes. Why all of a sudden are you
What kind of snake was it?
They were like racers. And at first they were little. Then all of a sudden she brought a huge one in. I went, no, I don't want snakes. And so I had to talk to her. Finally, she stopped. And like, I had a big talk and she stopped for several days. And then she went and brought one more. Like, are you sure? And I said, no. And so I sat down again and then she hasn't brought any more in since then. But, she was so proud. In the kitchen, there'd be another snake laying in the middle of the floor. I'm going,
yeah.
Nope. She was excellent catcher.
I live here in the city and I see like strange animals every now and then. I see foxes. I see possums a lot.
Yep.
Raccoons all the time.
Yep. I love raccoons.
Raccoons. The peanuts or the seeds that the birds don't eat, the raccoons end up taking them.
Well, the raccoons are omnivores. They'll just eat anything they can find. I had a raccoon for 16 years, so I love raccoons an awful lot. And here in Kentucky, I said I have a big backyard, so at night I do throw some stuff out because the raccoons, the possums. I have a big groundhog that lives under my shed in the backyard, so I throw food out there. I always have a big pot of water. I saw somebody mentioning hummingbirds. I have hummingbird feeders. Yesterday, I watched my hummingbirds forever because these two were just having the best time out in front of my window, just playing and flopping. So look at us. We can all be so entertained by nature, forever. And
oh my God, yeah. Nature is such a fascinating thing.
And it lets you spirit for the day,
The complexity of all the organisms and how they interact and how they sustain each other. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Well, we've been chatting and gabbing for about an hour. Let's do a couple readings before we have to shut up, close up shop. So I started a whole bunch, guys. I'm just going to kind of randomly pick. Let me see here. I'm going to pick a couple of kind of general, and then I'll pick a couple a little more specific. Let's do a cat question first. So Bluebell Oracle, here on my channel, I'm kind of a brat, but I'd like for you to be here when we do your reading. So if you can say hi or just anything, so I know you're here. Because chances are I don't want to ask you something. So, hi, Mark and Ramon. Hi, Bluebell Oracle. Can I ask about my cat, Shadow? He behaves so much like a dog. Has he been here before as a dog? Okay. Shadow. A little cat named Shadow. There's Bluebell. Thank you. Appreciate you saying hi. You can go whenever you want.
Yep.
I'm usually slow because of the whole Clairvoyant thing. I do feel a dog. Yeah, go ahead, sweetie.
No, so The first card I pulled is the Wheel of Fortune. And this is a card that talks about cycles, karma, transformation, changes. And this, what it tells me is, yeah, it's, I mean, you perceive it right now as a cat. It's in a cat form, but you have that connection. You feel that there was a dog there before because of the way the behavior. And yeah, it's a cycle that the cat is reliving as its previous incarnation as a dog. So that card tells me that. Um, Next card I have for you is the Elder Futhar symbol of Naldis, and this is about necessity, needs, things that need to be fixed. So, what it tells me is that its incarnation as a cat is a karmic cycle that needs to be fulfilled, and it's experiencing that aspect. And the third card I pulled is Birds from Lenormand. This talks about tribulations, a search for wisdom. So it's I do believe that your cat in a previous incarnation was a dog. I believe that there's so many incarnations, and the experience of one animal form can be enlightening as another animal form. So yes, it is, but it's the reason for it being is in a search of wisdom, of that new experience, of being able to absorb the energy and the spiritual gifts that animals can share. And it's a process. So yes, that's what I got for you.
Yep, love it. Yeah, I definitely get it's a return. Now it's a dog you had before, though. It might have been when you were young. It could be a dog from when you were a kid. I get it's somebody you knew in dog form. The loss of that dog was hard. It may have been an unexpected loss. You can let me know if there's a dog that's coming to mind because this dog knew you. I kind of get, I don't know, I'm kind of seeing that you were younger. It feels like it chose cat in this incarnation because it's easier for you to have a cat, maybe than a dog at this point or something like that. So this dog that you knew, I feel, was up in the other side. I always get this card when they're in heaven and they're going, I'm a little bored over here, and I think I wouldn't mind to get back on the earth and be back with my human again. And so I think he came back. He came back as a cat. Okay, my grandfather's dog. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's when you were little. But look, came back, intimacy, open up. What does it say? Open up and get close. He decided a cat would be easier for you to care for. And then they give me this other clarity right under your nose, but it's a dog saying, I'm right under your nose, right here, in a cat body. So I get pretty much the same thing. And then I just switched to another deck, a regular tarot. But this is the Two of Cups, and I love this. It's two energies coming from separate vessels and uniting as one. So this is an energy that's been around you for a while. And it would be like, I toss out that word familiar, but they're energetically connected to you. And a lot of times, an animal that we're going to be with when we're an adult connects with us when we're a kid. And then they wait for us to grow up and get settled, and then they come back, kind of a thing. Or at least I've seen that several times before. Okay. Yeah.
That was great.
Loved it. Love these cards. They're so fun. These doggy cards and kitty cards.
What are they called?
These are called Divine Dog.
I'm gonna
And
get it.
they're more like an oracle card.
Uh-huh.
But they're really good. I end up doing so much reincarnation. Who knew? But on my animal reading day, that comes up all the time. And these cards are great to read for that. There's also a cat one called Cosmic Cat. So they're both, but they're good.
You know, I've never had a cat. Like
Yeah.
I've never as a pet, but I had feral cats that I fed.
Yeah.
There's ones that I feed, and you know they have such a beautiful energy.
Yep.
My niece, she's always been allergic to cats.
Oh.
I have her sister, my other niece, is a vet, and she rescued this cat litter of kittens, and she offered one to her sister who was always allergic to cats, and she fell in love with it, and she's not allergic anymore.
Oh.
And this cat is her baby. Of course, the cat loves to be pampered and kissed and everything, but they made such a beautiful spiritual connection. It's amazing.
Yeah. I know, and plus, because I always felt when we get to allergies that it's more mental and emotional than it is physical. Sometimes, and I wonder about that. People, I'm allergic to that, and I always think, are you really? Because I'm wondering if you really are physically.
It could be psychological.
It's funny because if a cat that comes in the house and there's somebody that's announced they're allergic, they immediately go and get in their lap. They want to hang with them every second because they say they're allergic. It's so funny. Anyway,
so you attract what you repulse.
Yes, what you fear will appear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's look. Here's kind of a quick little, just practical question. Let's look at that. This is for Lori Sue Cragen.
I applied. Will I move to?
Yeah. Do you want to read on something like that?
Let's see. We could try.
Yeah. Are you still here, Lori?
Let's see what we get.
Yeah. Some of that too, that allergy stuff you bring in from a past life sometimes as well. That it's based on some old pattern. Let's see here. We're looking about a job. I mean, an apartment.
An apartment.
There she is. Hi, Lori. I know we talked for a long time, but that was a lot of fun for me.
It was fun. Yes. Me too.
I love it.
All right. So it's interesting the combination of cards that I got. First card I got is the Nine of Swords, and it says Hippopotamus Spirit. And look what it says at the bottom: indecision, blocked emotions, anxiety, fear. So what it's saying, it's acknowledging that this process right now that you're going through, it's very tedious because of the emotional charge that you have, the indecisions, the anxiety, and some level of one apartment or the other. It's a life-changing situation. So it's acknowledging that. Second card I got for you is Hagalas, and Hagalas talks about disruption, change, things that are broken that needs to be changed, right? So at the same time, it's picking up on that energy that there's a lot of indecision and anxiety around this. The third card I pulled for you is this oracle, and it says Keeper of Secrets, and it says take time out from the world and be an observer. Nothing can deceive you when you trust your knowledge. You see other secrets and other things in this, and trusting in your knowledge will build up your strength. So the combination of these three, following into this card, what it's saying is trust in your intuition. At this point, one is as good as the other, but it comes down to what connects with you, what your gut is telling you. Trust in your instinct. Make a commitment to it, because the fourth card I pull is the Ring, and this is from Lenormand. This card talks about a bond, a seal, a commitment that you're making. So the ultimate message here is you know which one is the best one. Just trust your gut, follow it, and always seek for clarity from the divine realm. But more than anything, trust your instinct, because that's never wrong. That's what I got for you.
Yep. I pretty much get the same exact thing. This oftentimes happens when I read with somebody else. We sync up or whatever.
Yeah.
But so deep down which one resonates most. It's the one that resonates most with your heart, and you're like, it lifts you up. When you think about it, you feel more uplifted. One is a little like, one might on the outside seem like it might be better, but the other one feels like it. So I would go with the feeling one. I feel like you're going to get offers from both. I get the Chariot. Like, look, the horses, two different horses coming towards you. So it looks like you'll probably get two offers, because then I get a Page of Wands and an Ace of Cups. So again, this is kind of like one, like, has a snazziness about it that might, like this, the Wands one, but one resonates more with your heart center, that Ace of Cups. So it just keeps telling you what Ramon was telling you, which is to trust your intuition and how you feel on the inside. But it is, there is a good match here. One of the two is a good match for you. So you get the Lover's card. That's like you being in love with your new apartment. But one of the two just feels better energetically. So I get an upside down devil and a high priestess. One just feels more like it's calling to you. It just reminds me of, sometimes I'll look at one thing and this looks nicer, but this one feels better. So it's sort of like that, where maybe I liked the closet better in that one or something, but overall I'm going to be better off in that one. Sort of like that kind of a feeling. But I think they're going to both contact you. So it's going to be up to you to choose, just like we're saying.
Sometimes we try to force our view into, this is the one that I should have, but at the end, the whole perspective of your reality, and which one is the one that's best.
You might also feel a little bit better about the landlord at one than you do the other. Like, there might be a nicer energy that you just sensed if you met them. But anyway, I think you're going to feel it very strongly. Sometimes when I feel like that, it goes against my picture or what I thought it was going to be. But with me, I always ask Spirit to give me that or that which is better. Like, I'll give them an idea of what I want and what I need. But then I always end it, well, this or that which is better, because I would rather you direct me to something that you can see is better for me in the long run that I don't know yet, because Spirit can have a big picture view. And a lot of times they go, oh, I see what you want. You need a new apartment. This one's going to serve you better because 4 months from now, someone that you're really going to be friends with is going to be in this, or whatever it is. So it's always a good idea to ask, I like this idea, but Spirit, if you have a better one, that's great too.
Yes. And sometimes we set our minds on one thing, and down the road there's something better coming your way. And that happened when I bought my house. I saw, my partner and I saw this house which we fell in love with, and we put an offer, and the offer didn't go through, and we were like devastated. That was our first offer. Then we found a second house, and this one was much better and closer than the first one on what we wanted. And we were like, yeah, this is the one. The offer didn't go through. Then the third one was even better. It didn't go through. It wasn't until the fifth one that was the perfect house. And our offer went right there, straight, no complications.
Easy and effortless. Yeah.
Yes. And it was exactly in everything what we wanted.
Well, you know, too, what I found out with working with manifestation, and I've always done that, like try to, I work with spirit to manifest something like a car, a house,
Mm-hmm.
a job, a relation, something, and I'll just work with spirit to do it. And what I've noticed over the years in doing that is a lot of times I'll attract almost it before it's it. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be like that. There'll be an opportunity. It feels really close, but no cigar. But
Yeah.
it's also, I always take that as evidence. Oh, you're working. It's working. You just got the almost there because the universe wants to show you that there's activity. There's
Mm-hmm.
there's options. We're showing you different stuff. We want to keep you involved and knowing that we're working with you. And so I see that a lot of times where it seems really perfect. I think it's going to happen. And then it didn't. And then after that, oh, I see why that didn't.
Mm-hmm.
This was actually better.
Yes,
And so,
totally.
and a lot of times
That
those are just
is,
signs.
yeah, that is so true. And you learn about yourself in the process. You're patient.
Yeah.
How to wait.
Yeah.
Because there's always something better
Yeah.
behind it. And it's so awesome when the universe throws you an extra bonus. This is something better for you.
Yeah. And plus they kind of want to go, how much faith do you have in the universe? Are you ready just to toss us in the bin at the
Mm-hmm.
first sign of maybe it's not perfectly the way you envision it? Because, there is that thing of, no, and so they kind of go, do you really have faith in us or do you not? Because, we got you back. I don't know. It's a fun adventure once you choose to go on it.
Yeah.
Once you choose, they're not, you can't quite get
Mm-hmm.
off the track, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to stop at this point.
There's a comment from Madame Maru, House of Cards. That's Maruta. I know her.
Yeah.
There's a guy on YouTube that feeds like 30 raccoons on his porch with hot dogs and cookies and dog food. I've seen that video.
Yeah.
I've
And
seen
boy,
that
they
video.
put the word out to the
I
neighbor.
get jealous when I see that video.
Yeah. The neighboring raccoons are going, come to this house. It's got hot dogs. Everybody knows. It's kind of
Party.
like the way I feel like the Blue Jays go, oh, Blue Jays, Mark's feeding peanuts. It's that kind of thing. I do love raccoons so much, though.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
The other night I was driving from work, getting here home, and I saw this huge raccoon. It must have been a pregnant raccoon because she was huge crossing the street.
Well, at the zoo, I knew lots of raccoons personally, but there was one called Mikey who was the biggest raccoon I ever saw in my life. I mean, he was giant and really fat and big. And his favorite thing to do with me was he'd take a running start and just leap and just jump into my arms. And, he was so, I would like go backwards, like, oh my God. And he was so huge, you'd be afraid of him, but he was a sweetie pie. But, I don't know. I have such a special place in my heart for raccoons. I don't know why, but I love them. And raccoons are one of the few animals that they're in all the states because they're so adaptable.
Mm-hmm.
And they can kind of make it in any environment.
Oh my God. Yeah. There was a documentary I watched years ago. I think it was maybe in Netflix. It was called Raccoon Nation.
Oh, cool.
And it tells you that documentary, it must be available somewhere, but it tells you like they're so intelligent. They know the patterns. They have like patterns of in the neighborhood where to go on certain days to get their food. And they did studies and they see, on Tuesdays, the raccoons goes to these streets and on Wednesdays to these streets.
Oh,
like
cute.
They know where to go depending on the human activity.
Yeah.
What's the trash and everything.
Well, the animals are very smart, especially when they need to be. They just don't, things aren't the things that we have are important aren't to them, but they're very smart about what is important to them. And that's great. I remember once I went to Silver Springs in Florida, and you ride on a boat, and there was a part of it where they took some bread and tossed it, and there was like 100 raccoons that came to this because they were used to that feeding from the boat. There was just I'd never seen so many in my whole life that all just came to the side of the water to catch breads being thrown to them.
I think all animals are intelligent. They have skills and other gifts that we don't have.
Right.
And what's different, that we don't understand the form of communication. That's why they're not intelligent, or they don't have a soul. It's always that perspective that we have, that being a human is the pinnacle of all life forms, and that's not true.
No. And
you
each
know
one
and
has their own individual soul.
yeah, and historically we always been like that. We always, in the past, in the Middle Ages, we used to think that the universe revolved around Earth, that Europe was on. There's no reason why the map has to be the way it is.
Right.
Europe, being closer to God, was on the north. When slaves, in the times of slavery, slaves didn't have a soul. So there's always that sense that we are like the best, the center, that we're everything, the pinnacle of nature, and that's not true.
Well, and plus, without nature, we're nothing.
Yeah,
because there's no earth, and then well, there's no place for us to be. It's so egotistical and so disgusting. And like people, I know they just haven't take time to look, but I don't know how you could deny that each one is a little soul with its own personality and its own. I took care of 18 chimps. Each chimpanzee was completely different than the other.
Yes.
I do chimpanzee this way, whereas I do it. And the same thing with no matter what animal I took care of. The giraffes, each one was a different. The rhinos, the hippo, whatever I cared for. And I have 6 animals. They could not possibly be more different from one another.
Yep.
I have that dog and cat that are best friends. Meanwhile, my other don't really want to be best friends with the opposite. So it's always and never, it's just constantly shown, it's a different soul and personality expressing itself in this body. So
yes,
once you realize that, it becomes a lot harder to be mean. Well, I could never be mean to any animal or anything ever since I was born. But you do begin to think about them a lot differently, and they have a lot to offer.
Exactly, and you establish a connection with them.
Right.
With my pets, my dogs, for example. We have this bond that I know when she wants something, when something is going on. It's hard to explain, but it's that integration, between us.
Well, and plus my greatest joy, I worked at the zoo for 30 years and I took care of.
I'm so jealous about that.
Of every animal I'm sure you can imagine in all that time, because they moved me all the time. But my greatest thing I always liked most is that the animals trusted me completely and thoroughly. And I think it's because I never would have even got that job if it wasn't for my relationship with the energy I call Pan, who guided me to pursue that. And when I was in my 30s, and I thought that I can't just be that all of a sudden. It seems impossible. And my degree and stuff has nothing. And I think I can talk to the animals, but that isn't really going to fly on my application in the 80s. So I don't think I don't. But sure enough, just like he told me, I became a zookeeper. But and I always thought the animals could recognize his energy, because he always wanted me to talk to them and do all that behind the scenes. But the thing I loved so much was that they just trusted me through and through, whether it was a jaguar, a lion, a tiger, a chimpanzee, a gorilla. And they trusted me and loved me and felt safe. And that just, I can't tell you how full that would make my heart. That, a jaguar would feel so safe and trusting around me that it would just nap at my feet. And, and it was a wild jaguar. It wasn't a hen raised or what. And that was the same with everything. And so that just gave me such joy. And it also made me realize that relationship with the animal kingdom can be completely different, depending on where you're coming from.
Exactly.
So since I presented in this, I was never an animal keeper that was afraid. I was respectful, of the animals, and I knew they could take me out if they wanted to, but never did I spend a moment in fear kind of with them. I just always loved them and cared for them and all that. So I didn't have much of that, but they just always treated me like I was their precious human friend that they trusted. They also knew that I could communicate with them. So they kind of wouldn't let me off.
They picked up.
Yeah, they knew that they could let me know something that they wanted, and so they wouldn't let me off the, off the hook as far as that goes. But it was just such a wonderful experience. At that time, I don't know if anybody else was having it but me. These days, I think there's probably more that are open to that. But it just made me realize, it made me think completely different of that idea of the Garden of Eden, where man and animal were just, you coexisted peacefully. And when a tiger saw a human, its first instinct isn't to kill you or eat you, because there was a more of a trust and respect. So I don't know. It just made me always think things could be so different. And a couple of times I had some experiences.
Yeah, there wasn't a sense of fear, of danger.
Right. One time I remember my jaguar female that, I communicated her telepathically, and she had belly issues like IBS. And so she wanted to do a meditation. So every day at the time we set up, she would come in with me in the back, lay down, present her belly, and then I do a healing Reiki session on her belly. And she just loved it. And then she'd just fall asleep during the Reiki. And then pretty soon the male was like, what's going on in there? How come she's getting all this lovely energy? And then he came in and would lay down beside her and give me his belly. And so then I'd have to do Reiki on both kitties. But my point is, one day I was cleaning and I had to do a lot of adjusting. There's all these doors. And I hooked the keys, but I didn't have them on the latch. And so she came in, because she always came running in to greet me because I was her person, the wild jaguar. And when she hit the door, it just flew open. Wow. And so I'm just standing with the jaguar right in front of me, the wild jaguar. And I'm thinking, oh shit. And, this probably isn't good. And she was just looking at me like, hi. And she was kind of, a little bit like, wow, this door's open. And I went, no, sweetie, you go on back. Now step back. And so she just backed up so I could close the door. But, her instinct wasn't kill Mark. She wouldn't have minded for me to pet her and stuff. But I was like, let's don't. Last thing I need.
The first reaction. Yeah.
Right. Because I still have to be respectful and know that, this same thing once when a gorilla got out with me and just was, the instinct was not kill Mark, because I already had a loving and trusting relationship with them. Now they were surprised that Mark lost his mind and somehow this door is open. It's not supposed to be. There would be a little curiosity about what's happening. But, anyway, I don't know why I went through that story.
Oh, I wanted a monkey when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was wanting a monkey. I saw those photos of you with the monkeys, and they're so adorable.
Well, that'd be a lot of work, though.
I
had the joyful experience of hand raising 3 baby chimpanzees at the same time.
Wow.
Little triplets. That's some of the pictures you see with them.
Yeah.
And, took care of them for about 3 years, their first 3 years. And then we introduced them back to the families. It was a long story why we did that. But when I left the zoo many years later, these babies had already grown up. And of course, they pulled me from them, so I wasn't taking care of them anymore. But I wanted to go tell them goodbye when I was retiring. And this has been years since I've seen them. And those 3 just adults now ran to me, wanted me to just, the little boy that you see a lot, he's always on my head or my shoulder. He always, it was 2 girls and a boy, but the boy possessed me because it was like the chimpanzees do this thing called boys club anyway, where they'll hang out, the boys hang out together. So he's like, this is the boy, I'm hanging with him. And would do that with me all the time. But so when I went to get him, and he was learning to be an alpha in the group. And so it was a difficult time for a young male chimpanzee. But when I came to tell him goodbye, he dropped all of that. He came over and just pushed himself up as close to me. And he wanted me to touch him in as many places as I could. So he'd give me his chin, and then he'd go, and want me to touch his tongue, and then his ears, and then his penis, and then his butt, and his back, and his arm. How many times can I touch him and hug him and kiss him? Oh, and of course it made me cry because I was just, because I was leaving too, and just that, that bond that I'd made with these baby chimps, it was like lifelong. I mean, they just, that wasn't something they forgot just because the zoo pulled me away from them. They still had that. This was our human daddy that we had for some weird reason. And we liked him a lot. So I don't know,
Yeah. And they have something from you, that energetic, I don't know. There's something that they took with them from you,
Yeah.
Part of their energy comes through you.
Yeah, and there's a bond. And plus I'm a the animals love to play with me, and I'd love to play, and I did a lot of baby raising and all that kind of stuff. But I allowed them to be who they are too. I wasn't really big on forcing them to do things that maybe the zoo thought or I thought. I would just allow them to be, and I think that made a big difference too.
Yeah,
they just didn't feel
Makes
any
sense.
kind of negative weirdness. Of course, I'm a nice person. I don't really have a lot of. I mean, I can be a jerk, but most of the time I'm not. But I do have a lot of feminine,
sometimes
mothery energy. So they probably. That's why I think the universe kept putting me in position where I had to hand raise a lot of babies, because even though I was a male, I had a really good, positive male energy, mommy kind of, for the animals. It was a pig, or a cow, a chimpanzee, a girl, whatever it was. So, okay. Anyway, I got to shut up. I could talk to you forever. Well, we had a lot of fun. I don't want to keep you too long because you've got some more stuff to do. And so we're not really done, because tonight we're going to do Flippity Flop, and I'm going to go on Ramon's channel. At
8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I have a show called In Orbit, and it's a show in which I talk with people from the community, from the divination community, about life, divination. We talk about their spiritual journey, how they got where they are right now. We talk a lot about their channel. There's a lot of different topics that we discuss. And tonight I'm going to have Mark as my guest, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, so we'll continue. I could already see that you and I could probably talk forever. So
totally. And there's more other topics that we didn't cover here that I will ask you about.
You could probably see, I tell people that my degree was in drama, but also oral communication. And I'm going, why did I ever think I needed to study oral communication? Because I never shut up.
So you can project the drama
and
more effectively.
I don't know if you needed to learn how to talk more.
So you can be a drama queen more effectively.
Maybe it's the heralding. I was supposed to herald, and so they wanted a big mouth. Anyway, I love you, buddy. I'm so happy we had this time together, and I'm looking forward to doing it again this evening. Thank you, guys.
Please stop by my channel, Moon Scarab, and so we can talk a little bit more. Everybody in the
I have a link in the community page for the show tonight, so you can go there to click on it and get there easily. But come over there and play with us over there. We might do more reading. I don't know what he has in store, but we'll have fun. Okay, guys, thank you for joining us today. I really
blessings to all.
Okay.
Bye.
It takes a long time.